timbrels, followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would dance to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just been through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. We go up to our bell tower where Jen and her friend Brianna are ready to ring our bell to bring us into worship.
Welcome to our beloved community as well as our digital sanctuary on Zoom. My name is Allison Gottlieb, and I've been attending TPC for 17 years. Many thanks to Deanna Wong, who is our camera point person today, and to Tom Keidel, who is our Zoom usher. Those of you who are here in person, we ask that you keep your mask on at all times while indoors. The worship leaders may take off their masks at the mic when distanced from others. Feel free to use the QR codes at either entrance to pull up the order of service on your phone or take one of the large print copies. People of all ages are welcome to move about in the sanctuary as they need to, and coloring sheets are available at either entryway. I don't see any children, but our religious educator Rose is off today, and children are welcome to stay in the sanctuary for hanging out in the cozy zone in front of the pews. Our child care provider Shannon is available to be with the nursery-aged children in the narthex at the back or to accompany them to our nursery in the parish hall. As we begin our service today, we acknowledge that our church was built on the ancestral unceded land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonialism and the continuing harm done to indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. If you're new to Theodore Parker Church or are visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and help us welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact info. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill in the contact card you'll find in the pews within the bright yellow pamphlet that Tori's holding up. Okay, so we'd like to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those who are joining us in person. So AV folks, could you please put our sanctuary screen in gallery view so we can see our offsite congregations? Since I can't see it, I don't know whether
I'll
it's
let
up.
you know. Deanna's doing 3 things at once. There they are.
Okay. So let's give each other a big wave and say hello from off-site and those in the sanctuary. We hope that each of you will find some comfort to carry with you over the week and some challenge for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, and a sense of peace. Our pianist Yukiko Tagaki has this Sunday off. As our music director Michael Johnson brings us into worship with some beautiful improvisation, we bid you welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. 3 cheers for you and your loop pedals. The things you craft are just beautiful. Well, good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Happy April. Hope y'all had a fun and safe April Fool's Day. As we turn to the month of April, our theme for the month is resistance. What does it mean to be a people of resistance, or what is the path of resistance? So our services this month, many of which will delve into that theme. And we're in a great confluence of sacred seasons right now. We're mid-Ramadan, which moves up a little earlier on our secular calendar each year, so now it overlaps with the seasons of Easter and Passover. So today, in the Christian traditions, is Palm Sunday, which begins Holy Week, leading into Easter next Sunday. And this Wednesday night marks the beginning of Passover, the commemoration of the Israelites' liberation from slavery. It's a holiday that calls us to re-envision liberation year after year, to recommit to bringing the day closer when all are truly free. When we honor and retell its stories, we draw inspiration from Unitarian Universalism's second source, the words and deeds of prophetic individuals, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. As we worship together this morning, may we know our own strength. May we be filled with courage. And may our love flow from us into this world. In that spirit, I invite us to sing our first hymn, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, made famous by Nina Simone. I invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, or raise your voices as we sing. It's hymn number 151 in your gray hymnals, and it's also up on your screen. Michael, take it away.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole world to hear. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar in the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Beautiful. You can have a seat. Each week, we light our flaming chalice, that symbol of Unitarian Universalist community, with words of shared covenant, shared commitment. We say them together in English and then in their Spanish translation in honor of our sister community in Plazuelas, El Salvador. Today, Jennifer Bottomley will be leading us in the English words, and Miriam Hernandez will lead us in its Spanish translation. Let me spotlight her from home. And invite you to join along in reading the words. Will be up on the screen in a moment, if Deanna wouldn't mind putting those up. And they are in the chat.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Beautiful, thank you.
With Rose off this week, that means I get to tell our story for all ages. I like this part. So the holiday of Passover is very special to me. Growing up Jewish, it was one of my favorite holidays, it still is. And we had a practice growing up with my dad. We wouldn't often travel down to be with our biological family on Long Island for the holiday. We'd invite my friends from school. And usually my Jewish friends at school were off with their own families, so the people who came were my non-Jewish friends. So it became this lovely thing of both sharing our traditions, getting into a practice of explaining things, and inviting people to reflect on things with fresh eyes. And it's really been very special. Still, for me this year, it's a remarkable thing to have any other Jewish people at my Seders. It's like 90% UU ministers this year and 2 Jewish friends from college. It's fantastic. So what I'm excited to share with you all is just a very simple retelling of the story of Passover, the story from Exodus. And this was written by the PJ Library, which is an organization that gives out Jewish books to Jewish families, and they tell this story in this beautiful illustrated way, the Passover story in 10 scenes, and it was illustrated by Michael Georgeson. So I'll tell a version of the story, retelling mostly slightly made more kid-friendly, the story from Exodus. So let me do a screen share here as I retell it. Just a moment. All right, great. Passover story in 10 scenes. Number 1. Long ago in Egypt, a mean ruler called Pharaoh made the Jewish people slaves. They're forced to do hard work building cities and pyramids. Number 2. Pharaoh orders all baby boys born to Jewish families to be taken away. But Moses' family floats baby Moses in a basket down the river, hoping he'll be saved. His sister Miriam watches over him when Pharaoh's daughter finds the baby and brings him to the palace to be raised there. 3. The Jewish people don't like being slaves at all. They're hungry, tired, and have no control over their lives. They cry out to God for help. Number 4, Moses, all grown up, goes out from the palace and sees an Egyptian treating a slave badly. He stops the Egyptian with violence. Moses recognizes that he too is Jewish, and he runs away from Egypt. Number 5, Moses is herding sheep when he notices a strange bush. It's on fire, but it isn't burning down. Amazing. He hears God's voice telling him to go to Pharaoh and demand that the Jewish people, Moses' people, be set free. 6. With his brother Aaron, Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh answers, "Never." 7. God brings terrible plagues on the Egyptians. Water turns to blood, frogs, wild animals, and locusts are everywhere. People and animals get sick. Hailstones fall from the sky. Everything gets dark. After each plague, Pharaoh agrees to let the Jews go free, but then changes his mind. Finally, after the 10th plague, Pharaoh frees the Jews. Number 8, the time has come. With great excitement and nervousness, the Jews pack their things and rush out of Egypt. They go so fast that the bread they're baking doesn't have time to rise. 9, the Jews think they're safe, but when they reach the big sea, they hear Pharaoh's army chasing after them. Pharaoh has changed his mind again. The Jews are trapped, but then a miracle happens. The sea opens up so the Jewish people can walk across between 2 giant walls of water. 10, the Jewish people are free. Led by Miriam, they sing and dance and celebrate. At Passover every year, we remember the miracle of freedom. So that is our Passover tale, the story, Cliff Notes version of the Exodus. Today we'll be delving more into that story in greater depth. It's a story that we tell again and again, turning it and turning it to find new truths each year. With that, I invite us to sing our next hymn. It's number 155, Circle Round for Freedom. It's one of my favorites. It's by cantor Linda Hirschhorn. I invite you to join in singing. Feel free to add some harmonies as we rise in body, in spirit, or raise our voices with hymn 155, Circle Round for Freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for relief, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Beautiful. You may have a seat. I invite you to join me in a time now of meditation or prayer. First in words, then in about a minute of silence, which will close with the sound of a chime to bring us back together. Our prayer today is from Reverend Clyde Grubbs. Source of life, we have been given time to measure our days. What are we to make of these times in which we live and love and have our being? The road of history has been long, full of both hope and disappointment. There have been wars and rumors of wars, violence and exploitation, hunger and homelessness and destruction. We know that we cannot continue to live in the old way. We must make a change, seek a new way, a way leading toward peace with justice and a healthy planet. Creative Spirit, you have given us a vision for the good, and we yearn for that new way. But where are we to find the courage to begin to work for this new beginning? We wonder what is required of us. We think of the prophets, the ordinary humans who gave voice to unpopular opinions, who made personal sacrifices, sometimes their lives, for the sake of justice. May we be inspired and renewed by the courage of these witnesses. Let them empower us as we work for this vision. So may it be. Let us be together in a time of silence followed by a chime.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with gratitude for all that we have been given, and with the faith that together we have more than enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. An offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope be gratefully received. Thank you. Our reading by Tamara Cohen is an interpretive take on an iconic Passover song, Dayenu, which means it would have been enough. It's a song about counting our blessings and celebrating each step on the journey. In an echo of this song, we invite you to respond after each stanza with the word Dayenu.
We have a text of it up on a slide when Deanna is able to put that up. Great.
It would have been enough for us to have been liberated from bondage, the song goes. It would have been enough to bring us through the parted sea, enough to give us our sacred seasons, enough to bring us into a land of freedom. While we count each of these blessings as if it would have been enough on its own, we know that more was given and more is promised. From singing Dayenu, we learn to celebrate each landmark on our journey toward redemption. Yet we must never confuse these way stations with the destination, because there is still so much to do in our work of repairing the world. Dayenu. If we speak openly about the pain, joys, and contradictions of our lives, if we listen to others with sensitivity and compassion, if we challenge the absence of marginalized voices in traditional texts, in the chronicles of history, and in the leadership of our institutions, Dayenu. If we continue to organize, march, and vote to affirm our values, if we fight economic injustice, sexism, racism, and homophobia, if we volunteer our time and our money,
Dayenu.
If we break the silence about violence and oppression within our communities and around the world, if we teach our students and children to pursue justice with all their strength, if we care for the earth and its future as responsibly as we care for those we love, if we create art, music, dance, and literature,
Dainu.
if we realize our power to affect change, if we bring holiness into our lives, homes, and communities, if we honor our visions more than our fears.
Dainu. Thank you, Allison. This is the bread of poverty which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. All who are hungry, come and eat. All who are needy, come and celebrate Passover with us. Now we are slaves. Next year, may we be free. These are words from the Passover Seder, the ritual meal that retells the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Jewish tradition teaches that one should tell the story in first person plural, that we were slaves to Pharaoh in the land of Egypt. We're called to relive the constricting bondage of oppression, to feel in our bones the need for liberation, and to feel the joy of redemption. We retell the story not because we're stuck in old traumas, but because we know that we who share this planet are all deeply interconnected. If any of us are still in bondage, if any of us are still oppressed, none of us are truly free. When we celebrate a long ago liberation, we are called to envision what our next liberation will look like. Passover calls each of us to see clearly the world as it is and to renew our commitment to creating the world as it could be. When I hear talk about building the world as it could be, I find that I often get overwhelmed with the vastness of the task. And even when I recognize my duty to work toward liberation, when I crave it deep down, it can be hard to know how to do it. So let's break it down. I want to highlight two great examples from the story of Exodus which guide me in how to respond when we hear the cries of the oppressed. First, in the first chapter of Exodus, we encounter my two favorite women in the Bible, Shiphrah and Puah. They were Hebrew midwives among the slaves in the land of Egypt. Pharaoh had feared that the Hebrew slaves were becoming too numerous and would rise up to overthrow his kingdom. So in a slightly more gruesome version than our retelling here, he ordered the midwives to kill any baby boy born to a Hebrew woman. Shiphrah and Puah refused. They refused to murder the babies they helped bring into the world and secretly saved them. When Pharaoh found out that the baby boys were still alive, he summoned the midwives and said, "Why have you disobeyed my order and allowed the babies to live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh with a lie. "Oh, because the Hebrew women are just vigorous, not like the Egyptian women, and they give birth on their own before the midwives even arrive." Pharaoh then changed his strategy to bypass the midwives and instead commanded the Egyptian people, "Every boy that is born to a Hebrew woman must be thrown in the Nile." I love the midwives' bravery for refusing to take actions which would harm another, for secretly saving the lives of those condemned to death. It reminds me of a modern-day parable originally by Lauren Isley. You may know this one. An elderly man is walking along a beach, and he sees thousands of starfish washed up on the sand and drying out in the sun. Further down the beach, he sees a young girl. He watches as she picks up one starfish at a time and flings it back into the sea. The man goes up to the girl and says, "There are thousands of starfish here. You can't save them all. You can't make a difference." The girl pauses, looks at the starfish in her hand, and throws it into the sea. "It made a difference to that one," she replies. Shiphrah and Puah did not stop Pharaoh. They did not end the decree that threatened the lives of a generation, but they saved lives. This is direct service. This is what we do when we cook for soup kitchens, when we build a home with Habitat for Humanity, when we collect food during a stone soup service to donate to our neighbors, when we mentor a child, when we truly see the person that is in front of us, the person who is hurting and scared and in need of support, and we do what we can. I think that's when we are truly seeing the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That's the direct service model of responding to injustice. But there's also this, Moses. Moses' mother had kept him hidden as a baby until his cries became too loud and she feared that Pharaoh's soldiers would kill him. She took a great risk that her baby might find a better life and set him adrift in the Nile in a basket. He was found by Pharaoh's own daughter, who amazingly adopted Moses and raised him in a life of ease in the palace. One day, Moses saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave. It was certainly not the first time a Hebrew slave had been beaten in Egypt. What was different was the way that Moses allowed himself to see it. Perhaps he recognized a system of oppression and injustice, that it wasn't just one slave being beaten, it was a whole people in bondage. Moses began to realize that only if he verbally and physically protested the oppression of the Israelites in Egypt could he end the pain inflicted on his fellow human beings, his people. Fast forward several years, and Moses has run away and is living as a shepherd in the land of Midian. God calls to Moses from a burning bush, sending him on a mission before Pharaoh. Moses goes before the king of Egypt and demanded, "Let my people go." It took attempt after attempt and 10 serious plagues, but eventually Pharaoh freed the Israelite slaves. The whole system had been changed. There's another modern parable whose authorship is unknown, which kind of gives us a counterbalance to the starfish on the beach story. And it mirrors Moses's. It goes like this. A woman was walking by a river and she saw a baby floating in it. The woman rushes in and saves the baby and takes it home to care for it, not unlike Pharaoh's daughter. The next day on her walk, she sees 2 babies in the river, and she calls out to a passerby for help. They rush in and they save the babies. Day after day, more and more babies just keep floating by in the river. Soon, the citizens of the town have organized a whole crew of volunteers to stand in the river and catch the babies. They've formed committees to discuss the issue of the babies that come out of the river. Years pass with new babies every day, and soon they collect money to build a school for these poor, disadvantaged babies who were caught on the river. One day, the woman who caught the first baby walks away from the baby catching committee. "What are you doing?" call her friends. "We've got to take care of these babies. Where are you going?" The woman responds, "I'm going upriver to see who's throwing babies in the river and see if together we can get them to stop. Come with me." This is political advocacy and community organizing. This is what we do when we meet with our legislators at the State House, like several of us did during UU Advocacy Day this week. When we protest unjust laws and regulations, like we're called to do in response to the wave of anti-transgender legislation sweeping our country, or advocating for safer gun policies. This is what we do when we find the sources of suffering and hold them accountable. This is changing the system. Both of these approaches, the direct service of the midwives and the girl with the starfish, and the systemic advocacy of Moses and the woman who decided to go upstream, are so important and necessary. So here's the invitation. If you find that you tend to gravitate toward one approach over the other, I invite you to try adding in more of the other and growing that muscle. At some point in my life, or points in my life, like when I was working as a community organizer just out of grad school, my efforts were so focused on systems level change that I felt exempt from needing to really see the people who were suffering in front of me. And at other times in my life, even when working in ministry, when my service work in the world is often one-on-one, I kind of keep my metaphorical blinders on to advocacy work so that I can keep looking each individual in the eye. But it really can't be an either or. It's a yes and. Yes, we help the person directly in front of us, and yes, we confront the powers that be to end the oppression. Yes, we organize for things like access to affordable housing that help us be able to purchase nutritious food for our families, even as we collect donations. Yes, we do what we can. Just as the girl on the beach saw that she couldn't change the tides that were washing up those starfish, she saw that she could do something to help the starfish she held in her hand. And just as the woman realized that she could do more than just care for the babies in front of her, she saw that she could understand what was causing the problem in the first place and save hundreds more. Yes to all of the above. Let's take just a moment, a few breaths. I invite each of you to consider what the next stretch might be for you in your justice work, in your caring for our world and the people around. Let's just take a few moments. I invite you to identify that for yourself. What might your next small, sweet step be? As we head into this holiday of freedom, this season of liberation and resistance, may we remember that liberation is going to take all of the approaches to justice that we can muster. This year, we are slaves. Next year, may we be truly free. The world as it could be is possible. Let's build it together. Amen. In that spirit of building it together, we're going to sing Come and Go With Me to That Land. It's hymn number 1018 in your teal hymnals if you want the sheet music. I invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, add harmonies, add some percussion as we sing Come and Go With Me.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land. They'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound.
Beautiful. I invite you to have a seat. We share some announcements and invitations for things coming up in the weeks ahead so you can stay connected with this community. Deanna, there's a slide for this one too whenever you are able. Next Sunday is Easter Sunday, so come in your prettiest floral bonnet, your floral attire, or just as you are. It'll be great to be together. Got some great stuff coming up in April. We're sponsoring again this year a community conversation with Dr. Carolyn Crockett with the UU Urban Ministry. It'll be on Zoom, so you can attend from anywhere. We hope you'll mark your calendars for this wonderful conversation on Tuesday evening, April 18th. We've got our next Music on Center concert coming up with the Heather Pearson Trio on Friday the 21st. And then very exciting end of the month stuff happening with our ministerial candidating. It's been wonderful. I've been making eye contact with the members of the search team who are here, chatting with the people online who are joining us. All 5 of you are on here, or 6, however many you are. It's an exciting time. The candidating week will be at the end of the month, so your new minister-to-be should be here April 23rd and 30th and meeting with y'all throughout that week. So please, Make some time in that week to come and get to know your candidate for ministry. Plan to be here, especially on April 30th, where all members of the congregation will be able to vote to call this amazing minister-to-be. And you'll hear an announcement about who that is as soon as it's all signed and sealed and everything's ready. So soon. Our amazing search team has done just an incredible job. So our great gratitude to you all. So with that, our closing words today are by Dorothy Day. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step, one movement forward at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has the right to sit down and feel hopeless, at least not for long. There is too much work to do. Beloveds, let us do that work of building that world together. Blessed be, and amen. You're all welcome to our social hour over in the parish hall, just through these doors and in the next building. Breakout room has just been open for about 15 minutes of connection for those online. Be well.